While we are waiting, let me remind you to, if you are not speaking, mute yourself and optimize the viewer up in the right-hand corner so that you can see my slides and the people who are speaking. We have some wonderful presenters this morning. I'm very excited. The 2 hours is going to fly by. I promise you, there is so much to talk about. And we'll talk about opportunities that are going to be happening later in the week for more detailed information about some of this that we're going to be talking about. It is 10:03. I'm going to go ahead and start talking. Lovely to see you all. I hope you can see me. There I am. Welcome to the Wisconsin Campus Vote Summit. So this is a collaboration with the Campus Vote Project. We are a program of the Fair Elections Center out of Washington, D.C. Our friends from Campus Compact of Wisconsin and the All-In Campus Democracy Challenge are joining us today. And of course, our esteemed Lieutenant Governor, Mandela Barnes, will be speaking in just a moment. And to close us out at the end for another little rah-rah at the end, we're going to talk to Alex Lassery, the Senior Vice President of the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks have made a conscious decision to help with voting this year, and he'll be talking about how they're doing that by using the Fiserv Forum as an early vote location and also using their power to promote voting and voter registration. So here we go. My name is Kristen Hansen. I'm the Wisconsin coordinator for the Campus Vote Project. We are new in Wisconsin this year, but there are a lot of other organizations, some of whom I know are on this call today, who are helping college students vote in Wisconsin and across the country. We have people on the call visiting today from the Andrew Goodman Foundation. They're an organization that also provide fellows and interns for campuses. The Campus Elect Project is with us probably. There's Vote Mob, there's Whisperge, there's of course my friend Ryan Drysdale, Ryan Wave, from the All-In Campus Democracy Challenge will be my co-host today. A lot of organizations that are helping college students vote, and I'm delighted to know that. If you can, please change your Zoom name to include your campus. We will have 82 people with us today, and representing 19 different campuses, technical schools, community schools, private and public colleges across the state. I'm delighted. And let's remember to put questions in the chat, but we'll also take breaks to answer questions as we go along. So here's our agenda today. It is packed. We're going to hear from Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes in just a moment. Then I'm going to talk about the particulars of student voting in Wisconsin. Ryan is going to talk about voter engagement on campuses, especially important now that most of this is being done digitally and virtually rather than in person. Big difference from previous years. We're going to take a break, answer some questions, and let everybody stand up and stretch a bit. Then Christina Johnson from the University of Wisconsin at Madison is going to talk about how she coordinates a number of interns and different coalitions across the campus, make sure everyone's working together in the same direction. We're going to talk about campus leadership engagement. It's important to get your president, your chancellors, your top campus leadership engaged in these programs. We're going to talk about the Wisconsin Campus Voting Challenge that you all can join. My colleague Hadia is going to talk about how you can help out by working at the polls, if you so choose. We're going to hear from some democracy fellows about what it's like for students on the ground. And then, as I said, we're going to close out with Alex. So these are a few things that you can do later this week. I will be emailing this to everyone who has registered for this call. So if you want to jot it down, that's great. If you don't have time, I will be sending you an email. Tomorrow at lunchtime, we're going to talk about frequently asked questions about voting and what to do if something's going wrong with Deb Crommiller, the executive director of the Wisconsin chapter of the League of Women Voters. On Wednesday, my colleague Samaya is going to help me with Digital World. We're going to talk about all of the ways that you can connect with students digitally, which is really where we need to be right now. On Thursday, we're going to talk with some of my colleagues at the ACLU and other places about how to reach out to diverse sections of campus. We want to make sure every single student is asked to register and asked to vote. So we will be doing that later. And now let's hear first this morning, and a good morning from our Lieutenant Governor, Mandela Barnes. Mandela?
Hey, thank you so much, Kristen. It is good to see you. I just want to say hey to everybody. I'm Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes. I'm so excited to be joining you all this morning to kick off the Campus Voting Summit. I like to, well, not necessarily like, but in this moment, we find ourselves in many conversations, and I talk to a lot of people who are much older than myself all the time. So it's kind of nice to get a chance to talk to young people, because too often our young people get ignored when it comes around to election time. And this is something that's critically important to all of our futures and the future of our whole planet. And that's the November election. Everybody says this, but this is really going to be the most consequential election of our lifetimes, because the stakes are higher than ever before. And we find ourselves steeped in multiple crises here in Wisconsin and all across the country. There's a public health crisis that's exploding on our college campuses at this very moment, and it demonstrates the absolute need for a government to work in the best interest of people. And that's not what's happening right now. We're in the middle of a climate crisis that's also impacting all of us, but it's been harming our communities of color and our low-income communities in disproportionate ways. And even our rural communities, our farming communities especially, are dealing with the impacts of climate change. And we've also seen this painful pattern of violence and brutality that is inflicted too often on Black lives. And we see it play out. We've seen it play out most recently in our state with Jacob Blake, and the countless other impacts of systemic racism and violence that's entrenched in so many of our systems. And that's why our response to these crises is determined by who our leaders are. And so choosing the right people to assume these positions of power is more important than ever if we truly want to address and solve these problems. And thankfully, we do have the chance to impact who's making these critical decisions. We get a say in how our government looks and how our government works, and whether it responds to these crises in a way that corresponds to our values and our principles. And that's the beauty of a representative democracy, but it doesn't just work on its own. We have to activate it, and we activate it when we show up to vote. We activate it when we organize and get other people to vote. And this can only work if everyone participates, as everyone who's able to vote does so. Only then will our democracy be truly representative of the people in this state and the people of this country. And that means we especially need students to turn out. In Wisconsin, our college campuses have played a significant role in all the cities they're located in, whether it's Madison, Oshkosh, Eau Claire, the list goes on and on. But students and young people in general have historically turned out at lower rates, unfortunately, than older generations. And we see where that has gotten us. Much of these crises we are facing are problems that we've known about for years. And a part of why they haven't been solved is probably because we've had the same people in power for years, decades, upholding the status quo and not committing to bringing about the change that we all deserve. And even COVID-19, which is obviously a new virus, novel in its appearance, it requires new research and treatments, and it's led to a crisis that's only exposed our existing social failures, such as a lack of access to quality healthcare or workplace protections or broadband internet even. But these low turnout rates among young people, we're seeing that start to change. Nationwide, we see student turnout for presidential elections. We saw the increase in 2012 to 2016, and there was an even more dramatic increase in student turnout from the midterm elections in 2014 to our recent midterms in 2018, when Governor Evers and I had the opportunity to be elected. And as of this year, millennials and Gen Z now make up the largest share of the electorate in our country at 37%. So, as you can see, you absolutely have the power to swing this election. You get to be the deciders on who our leaders are, not just for president or vice president, but for members of Congress and for your state representatives in the legislature. But you have to decide to use that power. And unfortunately, there are too many people in power that don't want you to do this. And that's why the young people today are some of the most well-informed and justice-oriented people in our society. You see all the problems, you see all the inequities, and you aren't afraid to call them out. And you aren't afraid to demand something better. And that scares a whole lot of people in power, especially the ones who've been responsible for these problems. Too many people, they look at young folks leading movements and they get a little nervous, they get a little scared. But our young people are leading these movements to call for action. And the reason they are scared and frustrated is because they've been inactive for so long. We know that we need action on the climate crisis, action on gun safety legislation, and action to address systemic racism. And instead of embracing youth leadership and welcoming it, we see folks run the other way. And they try to make it harder for young people to vote by not letting them use their student ID as a voter ID, or changing election laws weeks and even days before an election. But we can't let those people, the ones who merely want to uphold things the way that they are, a process, a system that's not working for everyone, we can't let them stop you from playing a role in determining your future, because this is absolutely your right to do so. So we have to make sure that you and everyone you know is aware of the deadline to register. Hint, for online registration, it's October 14th. And we need to make sure that they know how to request an absentee ballot and know about who is going to be on that ballot and what those candidates stand for, more importantly. I think about my time. I got my start as an organizer, so I know the power of everyday people standing up, making their voices heard, and I know how you can actually make a difference and make positive changes in your community. Even before I was an organizer, I was involved on my campus in student government in NAACP. It led me to where I am today. And I've seen people connect the dots between circumstances in their own lives and the people in power who contributed to those adverse circumstances. And for better or for worse, people are putting everything on the line to fight for a better future for themselves, their families, and the people around them, and people they may never even know. I started, like I said, in interfaith organizing. We address issues of economic development, education, immigration reform, treatment instead of prison, access to the ballot. And while elections often seem like a choice between two people that you may or may not like all that much, in reality, it's so much bigger than that. It's about the direction that we go as a community. It's about the direction that we go as a state. It's about the direction we go as a society. And we also have to remember that voting in the election is only one part of making your voice heard and participating in our democracy. It's a critical one, but please remember, it is not the only way. And after the election, it is vitally important that people stay engaged with the issues that impact you, that impact your community. And it is important that you keep fighting for these things that we all care about, regardless who gets elected. So I want to thank everybody for making it this far and being engaged. And I want to thank you for taking the steps to ensure that you're registered to vote and that you've requested your absentee ballot to an address that is convenient for you. And I want to thank all the campus staff who are working so hard to make campuses voter friendly. This is the work that we need for a functioning society. So I cannot thank you enough for all of your hard work. Remember, November 3rd is a mile marker, not a finish line. I will repeat that line until I cannot repeat it anymore, because we have to understand the power of organizing and the need to continue to organize, like I said, regardless of who gets elected. But we need people to fight for candidates who are going to stand up and represent all of us. So with that being said, I am excited to turn the mic over to my good friend, Alex Lasry.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Mandela.
Thank you.
Keep doing good work. Alex is actually going to join us at the end of the show. He didn't want to follow you. I think he was afraid. But thank you so much for being with us this morning, and thank you for all the good work that you continue to do to promote voting across the state.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
All right, so speaking of voting across the state, I'm going to talk about student voting for a few minutes here. And as a reminder, Samaya put in the chat the link for the deep dives. There will be a deep dive about voting tomorrow from noon until 1. You could spend your lunch hour watching that with us. We're going to talk with the League of Women Voters about every single little thing you can think of about voting and what happens when weird things happen and you don't know what to do. There are solutions. There are always ways to overcome these barriers and have your voice heard. So I want to talk about voting as a college student because we hear a lot about how it's difficult. It is true that there are barriers that exist that make voting a little bit harder for college students, but they can be overcome. And I want you all to know how to do it so that we can all share the good word about how to make this work for our young people. If college students, and I'm talking about every kind of college, if college students in Wisconsin were a city, they would be the second largest city in Wisconsin. There are more college students than there are population in Madison, Wisconsin. The only city, the only group that's bigger is the city of Milwaukee. So we're talking about a huge number of people that we need to make sure can vote. It's a little bit harder for college students because, you know, they're first-time voters. It's always harder for first-time voters to understand all the different intricacies of this. They move more frequently, so that is an issue. We'll talk more about that. If they're from Wisconsin, of course, they might have a driver's license or an ID, but if they're not, they need a voter ID that they can get through their college, so that's a little bit different. These are all different barriers. They can all be overcome. Now, you often hear in the media, oh, college students don't vote, young people don't vote, they don't come out often enough. Here's the thing. If they're registered to vote, 75% of them will vote. Maybe we can get that number even higher this year, but the key is to start with voter registration. If the college student is from Wisconsin, super, super easy. Almost everyone has a driver's license or a Wisconsin state ID, and you can register online at this magical website, myvote.wi.gov. If I had a dime for every time I shared that website, I would be a millionaire. It's the best way to get on there and learn how to register to vote. You can learn lots of other things too, which I'll talk about in a second. But again, if you have a Wisconsin driver's license or a state ID, you can vote online. You can register to vote online at that website. It is connected to the DMV. That's why you have to have a driver's license or a state ID to use it. If you don't have one, it will still help you figure out how to register to vote. So that's a very important website. If you are a student, but you're not originally from Wisconsin, but now you feel this is your home, you're going to vote here because you're living here for school, you do need to find that voter version of your college ID. Most, if not all campuses do have some way for you to get a compliant ID to vote with, especially the ones that have high numbers of out-of-state students. So you might have to poke around a little, but you can figure that out. You can do that once with your proof of enrollment to match your voter ID and proof of residence. Your voter ID from your college, by the way, if you went and got a special one of those, if it's expired, you can still use it because you're going to prove that you're currently enrolled. So don't worry about that. You're in all voter registration cases and voting cases, you're proving two things: who you are and where you live. So that ID is proving who you are. Your proof of residence, something from the college that says this is your dorm, something from your apartment that says this person lives here. All of those different choices are on the website. That's the two magic things that you need to register to vote and to vote. One new thing that recently changed with some court rulings: residency must be established by October 6th, 28 days before the election. What that means is where you are living on October 6th is the district you need to vote in. If you move between October 6th and the election, you need to go back and vote in that old district. For most college students, this is not an issue because, you know, you might move across campus. That's okay. Go to the polling place on the other side of the campus, or vote early or vote by mail. But you have to establish what your residence is for the purposes of voting by October 6th. I know that this is going to be an issue maybe if some students have to go home because of COVID, but we'll talk about that more on the deep dive. But for now, just know that you need to have been living in a district since before October 6th to vote in that district. And of course, if you are from outside of Wisconsin, your family home is outside Wisconsin, you can vote absentee from that address. So there is a way for every college student to vote. We just need to be aware of how to help them do that. And of course, in Wisconsin, we are lucky. We have day of voting, day of registration at our polling places. So if all else fails, you can go to your polling place, which you can find on myvote.wi.gov, and register to vote on the day of the election. We're working very hard to get student volunteers at the polling places that are connected to campuses, so that when you walk in, you'll see another student and someone who can help you walk through that process so you don't feel uncomfortable doing it for the first time. All of these voter rules are on our website, campusvoteproject.org, and I will talk about that more in a minute. As Lieutenant Governor Barnes said, the deadline to register to vote online is October 14th. If you need to mail in your registration, which is possible if you are from out of state, that mail-in registration must be postmarked, again, by October 14th. You can register with your city, town, or village clerk's office in person by October 30th. Clerks are excellent, excellent resources. They do want to help you vote. So if you have any questions, call the village, town, or city clerk in your area and ask them. They can help you by email. They can help you over the phone. The only little caveat is that they are allowed to set their own hours for voter registration. So you'll want to check their websites, or again, on myvote.wi.gov. Their phone number is listed right there, and an email address. You can check it out right there. The day of the election, again, is still your fail-safe. And the other thing in Wisconsin that we're pretty lucky about is virtually all of the campuses that I talked to seem to have polling locations either on the campus, because campuses often have buildings that are very good for voting. So they're either something on campus, a place to vote on election day, or very close to campus. So we're lucky about that, and we're always looking for new ways to add polling places. If you are voting on election day, students, and you have problems, ask for the chief inspector at your polling place, because they might know more than the poll worker who's helping you. And you can always call the vote hotline 866-OUR-VOTE. That is the election day hotline for any issues you might be having. You'll be seeing a lot of this from us, just continually shared between now and the election. But again, the number for that hotline is 866-OUR-VOTE. This map is directly from the Campus Vote website. Voting as a college student is different in every single state, actually, as voting is different in every single state. So on our website, we have this handy map of the United States, where you can click whatever state you're from, or whatever state. Maybe you have a friend who's from Kentucky, you want to help them vote, click around, and the lawyers from the Fair Elections Center have vetted these voting guides. They are up to date. They have all the deadlines. They have the official websites. They have information about how to register. They have all this long list. Look at all the different things you can use as proof of residency and proof of identity. So you can click this for any different state. So be familiar with that website and share that as often as you like. It's got all the good information that you need. As I said, there are some ways that it's a little bit more complicated to vote as a first-time voter, as a college student, but there are ways to break down these barriers, and that is what we can all help do. So is there a polling place near campus? That's great, but is it walking distance? Does the campus need to provide shuttles maybe on election day or to an early voting site? Do students know where the early voting site is, how to get there, which bus line? Is it bikeable? Be thinking about things like that. And also be aware of the fact that, you might think, geez, it only takes 5 minutes to register to vote online. Students' schedules are crazy. They have school, obviously, but they also, many of them are working. Some of them, not every college student is between the ages of 18 and 22. Some of them are juggling family responsibilities. They have children. They have full-time jobs. They have commutes. They have clubs that they belong to that are important to them. All of these things mean that we need to be as flexible as possible in sharing opportunities to register to vote and how to vote. And we could vote early, 2 weeks before the election here in Wisconsin. So there are ample opportunities to do that too. Now, here's one of the biggest barriers. Because of the pandemic, voter registration drives that used to be happening in person all the time have been canceled. I know in Madison, there was going to be a 2-week-long in-person voter registration assisted by the city clerk. That has been canceled. So we're really going to need to use our digital resources more than ever to share voter information and help students register to vote. We at CVP have democracy fellows on campuses that are going to be helping to do that. And certainly there are other interns from other groups who will be trying to spread the word as much as possible. Your civic engagement departments in universities, certainly some staff member at every university can help you register to vote and figure out where to vote and how to vote. So ask for help if you need it. All of us, and I'm talking faculty, administrators, staff, parents, anybody, you can put the myvote.wi.gov website in your email signature, put it on your online teaching platform, put it in your social media, send it out to everyone you know, send it to people who you assume know everything about voting. Because in my lifetime, I've been doing really hardcore voter outreach for about 10 years now. I am always surprised by people who say, oh my gosh, why didn't you tell me that? And it's because I thought they knew and they didn't. Doesn't matter who somebody, they could be somebody with a PhD someplace and they don't know some little weird thing about voting. This year, of course, with mail-in ballots, a big part of this is going to be filling out that ballot correctly. In April, 2% of mail-in ballots were rejected for various errors. 2%. That's enough to sway the election. So we need to make sure that folks know to get a witness signature, that the witness signature must include their full address, that they have to sign and date the outside of the envelope. All of these things, just don't be afraid to talk to everyone you know about voting. And then, of course, we want the schools to use their own social media to promote registration. Be fun and creative about it. Let's do videos. Let's do, the president of the campus is going to early vote with the mascot. That was something I saw that was cute. Ryan will talk more about different ways to engage with students. And if students are quarantined or sent home and there's a checklist of how to handle that, add how will you vote to that checklist. If a student is quarantined for 2 weeks right during voting time, make sure they have access to a mail-in ballot. So here's some more resources that we have on our website. Some little flow charts here to help students make decisions. Plenty of resources that will be shared and that are available on our website. I'm sure, like I said, other organizations have additional help too, but I'm particularly proud of ours, of course. So here's some websites for you to jot down. Again, this will all be emailed to you as well. The best place for voting info in Wisconsin is that myvote.wi.gov website. Voting in any state, you can go to the Campus Vote website. Vote411.org/Wisconsin has a lot of information about voting in elections. If you want to send folks there. If you want the official, most latest answers, the Wisconsin Elections Commission website is very dense, but that is where you will find the latest official answers, and that's elections.wi.gov. And then, of course, here, this is the front of the MyVote website, not just for college students, for all of us. this is where you're going to find all the information you need to register and to vote. You can look at your ballot ahead of time. You can double check your polling place. All of that information is on that fabulous website. So I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Drysdale. He's going to talk about engagement efforts, and then we're going to take a break and answer some questions. So if you have some, throw them in the chat, or just when it comes time, we'll take a little break and we'll raise some hands and take some questions. If you want to know more and more about voting, join us tomorrow at noon. All right, Ryan, take it away.
Thank you so much, Kristen. I appreciate all your work into organizing this summit. And for all of you who are participating, this work of making sure that students are prepared, confident, and ready to vote on campuses can't be done without the work you are doing on campus. So really appreciate you taking the time and making this a priority. I'm going to go through a few different programs, strategies, and resources that your campus can use between now and the election, and then obviously use those to build out your programming for every election after 2020. As the Lieutenant Governor said, November 3rd is not a finish line, it's a mile marker. This work always continues. You'll see in the chat box, I put in a bunch of links of things that I'm gonna be talking about, so I wanna make sure you see that. And again, this information will be shared after the fact. But my name is Ryan Drysdale. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm the Associate Director of the All-In Campus Democracy Challenge, and excited to talk about some opportunities for your campuses this fall and dive into them. And as I said, those resources and links are already in the chat box if you want to scroll around and see what they have to offer. The first is National Voter Registration Day. Hopefully almost everyone, if not everyone, is familiar with NVRD, as we like to call it for short. And this has started in 2012 and has become one of the feature holidays in the nonpartisan voter engagement space. This year it'll be on September 22nd. There's a link in the chat, or you can go to nationalvoterregistrationday.org to sign up to be a partner for free. They'll give you social media resources, toolkits on how to plan voter registration drives, whether you can do some limited in-person events or you need to do more virtual. But they are an amazing partner, and I truly believe that every campus should sign up to be a partner. If you haven't signed up yet and you're getting ready to do it, as you're completing the form, before you hit submit, there's a small box that says Campus Takeover. Click that box, because that will provide some campus-specific resources for you, as National Voter Registration Day works with everyone, nonprofits, companies, but they have specific resources for college campuses to help them prepare for and promote voter registration before the October 14th online deadline in Wisconsin and the October 30th in-person deadline. The next one is Vote Early Day. This is the first year that Vote Early Day is being celebrated, and it is modeled off of the success of National Voter Registration Day, with the mission to create awareness about early voting, as well as to celebrate the act of early voting. We've learned the term flatten the curve, and because of the pandemic, we want to flatten the curve for voting. We don't want everyone trying to vote on election day or just a couple days before election day. We've seen what happens with lines and a lot of those issues. So as many people as we can encourage to vote early is going to make the election process smoother for those election officials who will appreciate it, and healthier and safer for those of us that are out there voting, whether in person or by mail. Again, the link is in the chat to sign up to be a partner, and they have more toolkits, resources, social media examples that you can share on campus to promote this day and create a celebration around early voting. And really excited about this effort. They have more than 700 partners who've already signed on to celebrate, so it's going to be a really big party on October 24th and the week before then. So it'd be great if your campus can participate in that as well to get the word out. We know that research has shown that campuses' platforms are trusted platforms by students. Even if there are sometimes tensions between students and the administration, they still respect the messages that come from that. And we think it's imperative that campuses use those platforms on social media, email, and class instruction to talk about the options that students have to participate in the election. The next resource is the All In to Vote tool. And this is a free platform. So if your campus already uses TurboVote, Rock the Vote, we are agnostic to what civic technology you're using. Hopefully you're also using the My Vote Wisconsin. But if a campus doesn't have a paid platform and you want to use one, this is available. It launched in August of 2020 and has all of the online voter engagement that you need, from checking your voter registration, registering to vote. Starting in October, you'll be able to access your state-specific ballot information, and a lot of other sites that Kristen talked about today already will allow you to do those same things. So if you already have a plan of using a different site, great. Another feature that might interest you in the All In to Vote site is the Pledge to Vote function. And the All In Challenge will have a national campus leaderboard for the campuses that have the most students pledging to vote, as well as the highest percentage of students pledging to vote. So if that sounds like a strategy to really engage your student population, we invite you to use that and share that option to pledge to vote. What we'll also do is, when a student pledges to vote, we'll opt them in to receive reminders to make their plan to vote. And as Kristen had touched on, a majority of young people 18 to 29, more than 50%, have not been contacted by a political campaign. So young people aren't getting the information in the same way that older voters are. So it's really on campuses and nonprofit partners like ourselves to make sure we're getting the resources in the hands of new and first-time voters to make sure that they can make their plan to vote. So I invite you to take a look at the All In to Vote site and that campus leaderboard and see if your campus can climb the ranks of having the most or highest percentage of students who have pledged to vote. The other strategy we're really excited about we call it campus couch parties, and simply what they are is virtual text banking events. We know that some of the in-person voter engagement strategies that have worked so well in past years are just they're not on the table. We can't do them, or we can't do them to the same extent. So we need a way to engage virtually. And so we've worked with some partners to help fine-tune this strategy of virtual text banking events. There are two options that your campus can get involved. One is promoting the live couch parties that the All In Challenge and partners are organizing. The first one is on National Voter Registration Day on September 22nd. The registration link is in the chat, and we'll have additional probably 2 to 4 more couch parties in late September all the way till November 2nd. So keep an eye out on our social media at All In to Vote. And as well as our newsletter to see when those other couch parties are announced, so your campus can promote that throughout your campus community to make sure students are joining. The other option is, if your campus wants to host your own couch party, we have training webinars. Our next one is tomorrow. Our last one is October 7th. The training webinar from September 3rd was recorded and is on our website if you want to watch that at your own time. It's a 25-minute training. We want to be efficient and respectful of your time, so you'll learn everything you need to know. Essentially, how these couch parties work: someone joins the event, which takes up to an hour. It can take even shorter. You can host it in person or virtually, and we'll train the volunteers who show up how to text contacts in their phone with pre-written scripts. We use an app called Outvote that's free to download. With that app, you can sync the contacts in your phone to the app, and then choose which of those contacts you want to send messages to. And they're pre-written messages that you send, and there are pre-written answers as well, as if you're texting your friend, your classmate, your coworker, and they have a question about where to find their polling location or what have you, there are responses. So a volunteer doesn't have to be an expert in voter registration or voter get out the vote laws. They have the resources and the links that they can share. So we really encourage your campuses to promote these events. The training takes, about 25 minutes, and then the rest of the event, we have live entertainment, musicians, DJs. If your campus is hosting it, an a cappella group, the mascot, student athletes, whoever are influencers on your campus, to really encourage and inspire folks to be voters. And since only 48% of college students voted in 2016, it shows there's a need for us to make sure we're encouraging our peer networks to be voters. As Kristen said, we can't assume everyone we know is registered to vote and has a plan to vote. And so that peer-to-peer messaging can have a huge influence on making sure that everyone has a plan to vote. So again, our first live couch party is on September 22nd. from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The link to register is in the chat. You can find more information on our website in our resource hub under Couch Parties. And if you have any questions about Couch Parties, I shared my email in the chat as well, and you can reach out about that. I hope this is a helpful strategy for campuses to engage with students virtually. Another program we're really proud to partner with, along with Campus Vote Project and some other organizations, is the Ask Every Student program, which launched this year. I know a few campuses in Wisconsin are participating in Ask Every Student, and I have the pleasure of talking and learning about all of their plans. They have launched so many amazing toolkits, and I know there are so many toolkits out there and so many resources, and sometimes it can feel absolutely overwhelming. That's why a lot of organizations have worked together on Ask Every Student to really try to coordinate our efforts around a program to make sure every student has been asked about registering to vote and making a plan to vote. Earlier, you saw the voter registration scenario charts that Kristen shared. That's included in these toolkits. So it's a decision tree of, depending on where a student lives, when they moved, essentially where they should register to vote. There are great toolkits as well about how to integrate voter engagement and voter registration into learning modules and platforms, as well as during in-class instruction, either in person or virtually, where can you have every professor share a couple simple slides about key deadlines and actions that students need to take to vote? And that's a great way to reach students, since we know they aren't always opening and reading all of their emails. Encouraging professors to share that information in a coordinated way is shown to have a huge impact. And another key thing is, I know we already have syllabi out there, but if you can update it to include voter registration deadlines, include National Voter Registration Day, Vote Early Day, and when early voting begins in your state, that can be a great source of information for students. And if you already scheduled some big tests or due dates on election day, or even the Monday before, if you would consider rescheduling that to make sure that that isn't something that could potentially become a barrier for students of having the time to make sure that they're voting. And other resources, the myvote.wi.gov is a great online resource that Kristen has already talked about. So plenty of things out there to help inform your campus plans, as well as to inform and educate the students that you're serving, to help ensure that they have a plan to cast their vote and vote early this year. So our social media handle @AllInToVote, encourage you to give us a follow. My email is ryan@civicnation.org. Please reach out with any questions that you have. Again, thank you all for being here. The work you're doing is going to have such a huge impact, and really appreciate the partnership with Campus Vote Project and some of the other partners I've seen here, like SEEP and Andrew Goodman Foundation and others. Just so happy that we're all working towards the same mission of increasing student voter participation. So thank you very much, and I'll pass it back to Kristen.
All right, we'll move this back to my screen, or not. It says the host has disabled the screen share, except I'm the host, so I don't know what's going on there. But while we figure that out, let's take some questions. We have just seen a lot of stuff, so we do have one comment, and this is a very good question. I'm not sure I have exactly the answer, but we need to figure it out. How do we approach social justice issues that don't seem partisan? And so we do need to talk about that. I'm not going to open up this thing, but there's a link to a CBS News article in the chat that I would ask you to look at. So that's a very good point. It's hard to talk about a lot of issues these days without seeming like you're veering into partisanship, and we have to figure out how to do that. Speaking of CBS News, seeing this link reminds me, a good friend of mine who is a communications expert said, if you want to share straight up news without analysis or opinions attached to it, look at of course the AP, the Associated Press straight up, or the three traditional news stations, ABC, NBC, CBS News. The regular evening news is still the closest thing to straight news that we can get. A lot of the other cable stations veer into analysis and opinion all the time, as you probably know. So that's a really good tip. Let's see, what else do we have in here? Annie Lemke is reminding us that tech college students, theirs are 18 to 67 years old. Absolutely. So when we talk about student voting, we're talking about all of the students. So you might want to focus, because it's a little bit more complicated for young people who are trying to use the college ID to vote, but everyone on your campus is going to need little tips and help to vote. So don't leave anyone behind. Ask every student means actually every student. If you want to become a democracy fellow or get some on your campus, there's a link there, and I will be sending around my email address. I'm happy to talk to you about that. Let's see, what else do we have? Question lineup, Aaron Grunzy. Why don't you unmute yourself and ask us your question?
Sounds good. Thanks, Kristen. I also have my camera on too, in case anybody's watching. So, okay. Thanks for doing this, Kristen, and hosting. And it's great to hear all the information. My question has to deal with, I'm wondering if representatives of the colleges could comment about, you know, maybe what's happening on their campuses as far as maybe COVID response and the quarantining of students and how that affects student services, if students are needing to get that second ID, if that's something that is offered on their campus, the second ID being the one that's valid for voting. And I'm also wondering if campuses are offering an electronic version of their ID to students who aren't attending classes on campus this semester. What are they advising they do with those electronic IDs? Are they valid for voting? Or what have they found from their clerks in their area about the use of that ID for students who aren't on campus?
Does anyone from a campus want to chime in on that before I try to answer it? How are things working on your, oh, there you go. Luke?
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So another job that falls to me on my campus is I coordinate our student ID program. So for a very long time, I think ever since the requirements were implemented, we've been producing student IDs that qualify as voter IDs. When COVID-19 hit, we made a concerted effort to continue to produce physical IDs. It's not easy on the back end. It's not very clean, and it's taking up the majority of my time, which my supervisor is not happy about. But we are able to physically produce IDs still that fit the guidelines of voter IDs without students setting foot on campus, and we mail them out to the students. We do this through a form stack. We have students submit a photo and a signature, and they can use their smartphone to do this. And then I go on campus and I print the IDs off and I mail them out to them.
Thank you for that. Any other campuses dealing with how to get students an ID to use to vote with?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about this if you can hear me.
Yes.
Actually,
Delighted to have Maya. You're
hi.
on the list. I want to talk to you.
Okay. So I was also working with Erin about this, so I answered her a question already via her email. But I'm very excited that we've had a voter compliant ID for years. And what we would normally do is send the PDF of this ID off to our printing company and they would print it out onto plastic. This year, what we did was we made that optional for students if they wanted to have it printed, but instead of just sending the print department the PDF, we also sent the PDF to all students. So my question for Claire, who's the director of the Election Commission in Milwaukee, was, does the ID being plastic make it an ID?
Did she answer you?
And I got an answer, and the fact that it's printed on plastic, what it's printed on doesn't make an ID. So the students can print it on whatever printer they would like, and they could either add their digital signature via a PDF writer. Actually, Claire suggested that to the white space of the student ID, or they could print it out and use an old-fashioned signature right on that copy of an ID. And then it's voter compliant ID and also for voter registration. So we gave them a selection of options. Either they could have it sent to the print company and pick it up down the street from the dorms. They could print it on, if they don't have access to the printer, they could print it onto their own printer, sign it. They have a voter compliant ID. It was really simple. We didn't have to change a lot to make that happen.
Thank you for sharing that. I will say I live in the city of Waukesha, and we have Carroll University here and WCTC. I asked our clerk in Waukesha, and she also said there's nothing magic about plastic. You can print it, send a PDF to the students and print it on a piece of paper, and that's fine too. So I was really delighted to hear that. I think one of the things we're going to do is do a full survey as much as we can of different clerks and make sure they're all on the same page with that. Talk to the Elections Commission and make sure they're doing training of poll workers to make sure that students can maybe even show their digital ID. Don't quote me on that one quite yet, but certainly if you can. Oh, here's somebody saying the Madison City Clerk is saying voter IDs can be digital. So if they just hold up their phone and show their ID, that could work too. But we want to, make sure that that's for all the students across the state and try to make things consistent. But yeah, I think everyone's trying really hard to figure this out, and that's the best part of it.
I do, when I talked to Claire, she did recommend that students print out their PDF if possible. She recommended that as best practices because it may or may not be accepted electronically. It depends on the area. So I agree, I don't think that's consistent overall.
Yeah. Any other questions? What's in the chat here?
Can I just, this is Mary from Marquette. Hi. So the Wisconsin Election Commission had indicated to us that given the court ruling, that an electronic version of the ID will not be allowed on election day to vote.
This is why I want to double check with them, because some of the clerks are saying they will, and some of them are clearly going to follow some other rule. But at any rate, if they get it and they print it, even on their printer at the library, or if they have a printer at home, any piece of paper printed, that will help a lot, just knowing that. So stay tuned, I'm going to drop my email address in the chat. If y'all shoot me an email and say, add me to your list, if you're not already getting emails from me, I will keep you updated on all of this.
Hey, Kristen, thanks for that. And thanks for everybody chiming in on answers. I think this is a good space for our advocacy groups and for campuses to reach out to the clerks and just confirm that there won't be a problem on election day for students to show a physical ID. And then we can follow up on the validity of the electronic ID. But that might be a really great phone call to make the clerks, just to make sure that that's included, so nobody is turned away come election day if they vote in person. So thanks for that. And I'll just plug real quick, Common Cause put together some information on the photo IDs at each campus, and I'll put those links in the chat so you all can review them and see your campus, and if there's anything that you would like updated, I'm happy to do that. And then feel free to distribute those, and hopefully they'll be helpful for students to get to the polls. Thanks.
We have a couple of minutes for one more question, and then we're going to take a little break and be back with Christina Johnson from UW-Madison. Thank you, Chris McCallum. I will do that. Any other last question here before we take a little break? Thank you, Ivy. Yes, Wisconsin is a swing state. There's a reason why everybody and their uncle is trying to get students out to vote. But it's for us, Campus Vote Project does this all the time, 24/7, 365, every year, not just election years, because we are about promoting democracy. Of course, voting rights are a big, big part of that. But we will be back after the election talking about different aspects of democracy. So we'll, hopefully can continue to engage people all the time. And let's go ahead and take a little stretch break here. I'm going to figure out why I am not allowed to share my screen anymore. We will figure that out and be back here in 3 or 4 minutes. Let's do that. Everybody mute yourself and maybe, stop your video, stand up, stretch, walk outside, breathe fresh air, and come back to us in a couple minutes. Thanks. All right, we're going to come back and just. And we are pretty much on schedule. That's great. There we go. If you look at the slide that I have up right now, my email address again is on there. I'm still looking for some democracy fellows. These are paid student interns to put at various campuses. You do not have to be in our full program to have a fellow on your campus to help with voting. So if you have questions about that as an administrator or a faculty member, send me an email. If you are a student and you're interested in being a democracy fellow on your campus, shoot me your resume and a cover letter. I can't guarantee everything because we do have some campuses already full, but it's worth asking. So Christina Johnson is here. Christina, can you unmute yourself?
Hello.
There we go. And I hope everyone's back. You can turn your cameras back on so we can see your smiling faces. Makes it more fun. Why don't let's start talking about how to coordinate all these coalitions and student groups that you've got on campus. And the biggest campus in the state, of course, is the University of Wisconsin at Madison. So we are delighted to be joined by Christina Johnson, the Assistant Director for Civic Engagement and Communications at the Morgridge Center. So Christina, take it away.
Thanks, Kristen. Thanks for carving out space to talk about coalition building and interns, because obviously it's a big piece of what makes this work happen. So again, my name is Christina Johnson, and I'm the Assistant Director of Civic Engagement and Communications at the Morgridge Center for Public Service at UW-Madison. And I'm also currently the co-chair of the Badgers Vote Coalition, which is our group on campus that is collaboratively working to advance voter registration, voter education, and civic learning. And so Kristen asked me to just touch on briefly how we support students and how we do coalition building. So I'm hoping to just give a little bit of an overview of what's worked well at our campus and also some tips on how we're navigating supporting so many students and a coalition being entirely virtual right now. So to give a little bit of background about our coalition, it started in late 2017 when UW joined the Big Ten Voting Challenge, which was a competition to boost student participation in the 2018 midterm elections. Participation was endorsed by our chancellor, and as a result, the Big Ten Voting Challenge Committee brought together stakeholders, including student organizations, staff, faculty members, university communications, and others from around campus to help educate and mobilize students. After the midterm elections, the Badger Vote Coalition became the successor group to the Big Ten Voting Challenge Committee. And so now that's what we operate under, is the hashtag Badgers Vote Coalition, excuse me. All of our work is housed under the Morgridge Center, which is our center on campus to promote civic engagement and civic learning. And I think that's one huge asset, is that having it housed in a space that will take ownership has made all the difference for continuing to advance this work throughout the year and not just when elections are happening. So Kristen mentioned that she still has Democracy Fellow positions available. And so I'm going to jump into our structure of the interns that we support. We have doubled the amount of interns that we're supporting this year we had 5 last year and now we have 10. And they come from a number of different organizations, many of whom are on this call. So we've got 3 from the Andrew Goodman Foundation, 2 Democracy Fellows from the Campus Vote Project, maybe to be 3 in the next week or so, 2 interns from our local chapter of the League of Women Voters, 2 Big Ten voting interns, which are supported by our chancellor and initiated out of that 2017 project, and then 2 campus election engagement project interns. So we have a really robust crew, and I think when you initially look at this list, it can be overwhelming because each organization has their own set of requirements in terms of what types of projects students should be working on, the way that they log the hours, the network of resources. But what's really wonderful is all of these organizations, just like they've come together today, are aware that they each have their own set of requirements and they work collaboratively. And so instead of feeling like we're pulled a bunch of different directions, it actually feels like, wow, we just have access to a lot of really amazing resources. So when we work with students, we try to operate under the agreement that we're all within the umbrella of the Badgers Vote Coalition, which hopefully by promoting that branding helps ensure that students across campus know how to access nonpartisan information, and they feel really confident that even though they might be working with an AGF ambassador, they know that they're operating within the Badgers Vote Coalition. So that's one of the main things we focus on, is a shared understanding of our efforts. When students come to our coalition meetings, we talk a lot about they'll have their own set of requirements, but ultimately, if we're doing our job, we're advancing voter education and voter registration across campus, regardless of the organization that we're attached to. Each partner, as I mentioned, has their own way that they like to track projects and efforts of the students, but we all operate under one campus action plan, and we do that through the All in Democracy Challenge. So what's really lovely is that we can use that same plan and submit it to these various partners, and they understand that that's going to be universal across all of the groups. So, you know, if that feels overwhelming, that you're collaborating with various entities, it's really lovely that they all work in unison with each other. And then I mentioned that they each come with their own set of resources. A lot of these organizations have micro grants available. They also have staff people that support either locally or nationally. So we're not only able to connect students across campus, but we're also able to connect them with other students across the country for sharing of ideas, collaborating, sharing resources. And so we have these 10 interns, and I want to mention how they fit into our larger coalition. So I mentioned that we have the Badgers Vote Coalition, which is made up of staff, faculty, university communications, university relations. Our Dean of Students has been sitting in on calls recently. Our city clerk is involved, student government, housing, community partners, athletics, etc. And at these meetings, they tend to be focused on some of the higher level decisions. So for example, this year we added a texting platform, which was provided to us by the Andrew Goodman Foundation. That was a decision that our larger coalition made together to adopt that. And what's really great is that when we adopted it, we were able to say, hey, University Communications, can you make sure that this is accessible to all students and they know about this resource? Housing, can we put information in the dorm so that students know how to get connected to this resource? So we those meetings tend to be a little bit higher level decisions, but we understand that the student voice is super crucial in driving this work and should be a priority. So we created a Badgers Vote Student Coalition, which our Big Ten Vote intern leads. And so that is a student-centered space where all of these groups and individual students and student orgs can come together to collaborate, to brainstorm, to move each other's initiatives along. And those students also have a space at our larger coalition where they report out. So what's really nice is giving autonomy for them to own projects and to lead this work, but then they also get to bring their ideas and decisions to our larger coalition meetings. One nice addition that we've had more recently is a communications subcommittee that was created. And this proved really important after the April election when information was constantly changing, and we were needing to be responsive to getting information out to students really quickly, but also wanting to make sure that information was correct. So now we have a communications subcommittee, which has been a really, really nice addition. It has representatives from housing, university communications, university operations, and they're able to brand stuff, make sure that information is getting spread out across the university, and that we're amplifying the voice of our work. I think that right now, more than ever, we're competing with a lot of messaging around COVID and decisions that are impacting students on campus. And that's all very important, but voting is also really important. So we're trying to keep our messaging at the forefront of all communications. And by having a subcommittee, we're able to advance that work more quickly. So then, oh, and that's one of our lovely interns, Tamia, on that slide there. She's our Big Ten vote intern. So I just want to mention a couple of things that have worked really well as we've tried to engage students in a virtual setting. Our center is entirely remote for the fall semester, which means all of our voter engagement efforts are remote. Our coalition has been meeting via Zoom. So some tools or things that have worked really well are, using this idea of collaborative and shared leadership. So I'm a co-chair on the coalition. The other chair is a professor of political science. We divide our work. I work more with the students and make sure that their projects are developing. I'm also fielding all of the requests for outreach events. If folks want voter registration drives, or if they want to volunteer, that gets funneled through me. Kathy Kramer, who's the co-chair, she's a very well-known name in this work, and so she tends to leverage her position in different ways. And that works really well because we're able to move projects along quicker, and we're also able to respond to folks who are wanting to get involved with voter engagement efforts on campus. We also prioritize student leadership. So as I mentioned, we have the student coalition. We also work really collaboratively with a number of other organizations and scholarship programs on campus. So we try to make sure that any of those groups represented in our NSOLV report as being underrepresented in voter engagement, that they're also at the table. And a lot of times we find that they are most comfortable in that student group because they feel heard. Peers motivate peers. Peers have ideas on how to get other students connected. And so we really try to elevate the student leadership component. As I mentioned, we also rely on subcommittees. So even within our student coalition, we divide out work so that certain students or orgs are working on various projects while others take on other initiatives. And then some actual tangible things that have worked well for us as we've been in this virtual space is we utilize listservs. So I'm sure that other universities do that too, but we have a communications listserv, and then we have a Badgers Vote listserv. We rely heavily on Google Docs. That helps with our shared communication. It also helps us be able to drop in timely information or things that are changing weekly, daily sometimes. We keep all of our meetings open to the public so that as folks are wanting to support our efforts but might not necessarily be in a campus setting, they're at least aware of what we're doing. We also invite representatives from all of the groups on campus that want to be involved to listen in on a public link, and we share all of our meeting notes with anybody that's interested so that they can tap into existing efforts. One thing we've added this semester has been an events and activity tracker. So we were realizing it could be really challenging for students to share what they're working on without it being redundant. And we want students to be able to support other students' projects, to publicize them, to funnel volunteers into different activities. So we created a shared activity tracker where any student, regardless of whether they're one of our interns or not, records the projects that they're working on. They can request volunteers to help with what they're doing. And also then we just have awareness to be able to share what's going on across campus. We also have a space where we note whether it's been promoted on the university events calendar. So that was a new addition as of just a few weeks ago. We realized, I don't know if we're doing a good enough job making sure that students on campus know all of the voter related projects that are going on. So we've started tagging our activities on the university calendar, and that's been a good way to amplify what we're doing. We've also created a uniform workshop request form. So as various groups on campus have started to get a little bit more settled, classes, student orgs, they can submit a request for a voter registration workshop, for civic learning, for just a general digital toolkit through this shared workshop request form. And that's been a really nice way to have everything gathered in one place. And then we're more easily able to assign to interns, all right, you take this one, you take this one. And it just helps us to be more responsive and quicker. And then we also use the shared volunteer form. So again, the students that are interested in volunteering in voter engagement type work doesn't necessarily have to tap into a project that one of our interns are doing, but we'll do our best to make sure that they get connected to a group or a space on campus that that fits with their schedule, and that will work well with what they're looking for. And so we try to funnel all students in the same location and then be able to onboard them to, this is nonpartisan work. We all operate under the Badgers Vote Coalition. And again, building that confidence of where students can go to access information that's accurate and nonpartisan. And then lastly, I think one thing we try to do by having a lot of students and having this housed in the Mortgage Center is really demonstrate our commitment to institutionalizing this work. And I think by doubling the number of students that we're supporting, by committing to a regular presence and trying to do civic learning all year long, we were recently able to make the case for a new position. And so I'm really excited that starting in about 2 weeks, we'll have a new coordinator joining us, which is our voter engagement and civic learning coordinator, and they will be committed to doing this work full time. And so I think that we've been able to demonstrate our commitment to this work through the number of interns that we've supported and the growth of our coalition. We've been able to incorporate more folks into that team. And so now we have a new coordinator that's going to be doing this work all year round, which is really exciting. So I would encourage anyone that doesn't have interns from these various organizations to reach out, take advantage. They come with a lot of amazing resources. All of these groups are working collaboratively. And the nice thing is we get to check in with other schools in these work groups, not only as professional staff, but our student staff get to do that as well.
Thank you so much, Christina. This was fantastic. Do we have any quick questions for Christina? Either put them in the chat or unmute yourself and just ask. We're a little bit behind, but we can make it work. I hope none of you are thinking, oh man, that's a lot, because even if you took just a couple little points off from what she said, that's worth it. I think the shared information is a really good one, shared communication on Google Docs so everybody knows what's going on. And the event thing, you might find out that you've got overlapping voting events going on campus that conflict with each other. They wouldn't always, but sometimes they might. And just letting everyone know what's all happening is important. No questions? All right. If there are no questions, we are going to move on. Thank you so much, Christina. That was amazing. I really appreciate all of your work, and thank you for giving a shout out to all the different organizations that are providing interns on your campus. All right, now, Ryan, unmute yourself. Find my colleague Ryan back again. Where did he go? Did Ryan disappear? Ryan. All right, well, I'm going to start talking. If he's not here, then let's see. We will keep going. Ooh, sorry. All right, campus leadership engagement. Unfortunately, my friend Kelvin from the Campus Compact in Wisconsin group was unable to join us this morning. But organizations like Campus Compact help you engage the very top leadership in your campus. Sometimes I hear from administrators and faculty that there is a disconnect between the president of the college, the chancellor of the university, the very top leadership, and the folks who are trying to do this work. It doesn't make it impossible. It might make it a little bit harder. So we want to say thank you to all the campus leaders who are already supporting these efforts. And, think about spreading the word about Campus Compact. Campus Compact really works with the top leadership to make sure that they're supporting everything else that's happening on the campus. There is a fee involved to be a member of Campus Compact, but I think it changes depending on how many students you have. So it's affordable, and it would be worth it for you to get a really top broad coalition across the entire campus. The other thing is, Christina named a lot of different staff members and departments that are involved in voting. This is really important. So, you shouldn't be the only one on your campus that has to try to make all of this stuff happen. Make sure you're reaching out to the faculty, even if you get one faculty member from each department who's part of this, or even each school for the larger universities. Different staff members, really anyone who wants to help. Who's interested in helping students vote. It could be, anyone who's a worker on the campus. Maybe everyone just wants to wear a button that says how to vote or to vote. Maybe you want your events people involved. Certainly marketing and communications, it's really helpful. Reach out to the folks in athletics, because that's where you're going to get involvement from mascots. Some really cute social media can come out of having whoever your mascot character is helping with the voting effort and the registration efforts. Some of you are getting PPE swag with vote on, like a mask, or the hashtag for your university across the mask. Stuff like that is really helpful, because it's just a constant visual reminder of voting and voter registration. And then, of course, there's the student groups, newspapers, Greek organizations, student government, all the clubs and athletes. At least reach out to them and see if they want to be involved. Don't assume that they don't. Are there any other ideas folks have, excuse me, about involving broader sections of the campus in leadership engagement? Anybody have anything they want to share? If you do, unmute yourself and talk. Are folks having trouble unmuting themselves? Nobody? Come on, you guys. Surely someone at one of the campuses is doing something interesting.
Okay, I can share one thought. We've been thinking about leveraging different systems that our students use to get information. So our Blackboard learning module site, what can be posted there, and then what kinds of messages can we share with employees too, because their vote counts too.
That is very true. That is very true. Are you doing that basically on email, or are there other employee platforms that everyone can see?
Like our intranet site. So we have like a home page for all employees. We could post something there.
That's a really good idea. Anyone else? Anybody do anything really creative with mascots or the athletic departments? There's something in the chat. Let's see. There's a Carrie from UWM is shared in the chat. There's a Canvas module available through an organization that is helpful for those of you who use Canvas. Anything else going on campus that you want to share?
I know for MATC, we do a lot with voting anyway, and just like the rest of you all do. And I'm so excited this year. Our college communications have been sending out things about voting, but
Oh,
we've
good.
also partnered up with AFT Local 212 and different other organizations to provide our faculties with emails for registration links, as well as if they would like to do some type of virtual voter registration information sessions. And so
That's
that's a couple few things that's going on.
So at MATC, you almost all your students I know are taking classes online, right?
We try to put as many classes as we can online, but we do have several students that are face-to-face. So we have EMT, paramedics, nurses, barber and cosmetology. So we definitely have some students that have been back to work, been back to school for more than 15 weeks now. So
15 weeks, oh wow. So tell me, how are these messages getting out to everyone? Is it emails? Is it social media, other platforms?
We have a combination of all those things. So we have workers that will be calling and contacting faculty, staff, students, and so we have a variety of ways. So emailing, yes, if we can't get you by phone, then we'll email. Asking the instructors what's best option for them. That way we can know when their classes are meeting virtual, so someone can speak to them if they want the information, as far as someone to speak about voter registration information and things of that nature. But if they just want us to send the form so the students can register to vote and things like that, we have those links in there. So
fantastic, thank you so much. And you have the added benefit of the Fiserv Forum big early vote spot right next to the campus. That's going to be awesome. All right, in the interest of time, let's move on. I just want to share too that for those of you who are a part of Campus Vote Project or the All-In Campus Democracy Challenge and Campus Compact, we are doing an extra Wisconsin Campus Voting Challenge this year. So there is the bit.ly right there, the Wisconsin Voting Challenge. You can, if you're already part of us, you're in it. So you're done. But if you want to join, find more information at that challenge. We all give awards for your successes around voter engagement. We give you an award that says you're a voter-friendly campus. All-In Campus Democracy gives you medals, bronze, silver, and gold medals. For helping students vote and getting out the vote. And all of that is part of our challenge to every single kind of campus in Wisconsin to help students vote this year. The Campus Vote Project is still taking applications, so it's not too late to join us. It's not too late to join All In. Our information there is at the bottom if you want to email me or Ryan about joining our organizations. It is free. Our fellows are free. All of the resources and assistance to you individually and collectively is free. So if you haven't already joined one of our organizations and you want to, don't feel like it is too late. It is not. And it is now 11:30, and is Hadia with us yet?
I'm right here. Hi.
You are, yay. Did I hear you, Hadia?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. My colleague, Hadia Afzal, is here, and she specializes in recruiting students to help other students become poll workers. So I will let her take it away.
All right. Thank you, Kristen. Hi, everyone. My name is Hadia Afzal. I'm the Midwest Regional Coordinator of the Campus Vote Project's new Work Elections Fellowship. It's a separate program from the Democracy Fellowship that Kristen has previously mentioned, and it's aimed at safely expanding the number of poll workers in key campus communities across 10 crucial swing states, including Wisconsin. So it took just under 1 million poll workers to pull off the 2016 general election, but with COVID, the number of expected poll workers this year has plummeted. And this is a critical moment because America is in the midst of a nationwide poll worker shortage, and I'm sure I don't tell you guys about the consequences that have been felt in recent states and their primaries like Wisconsin. So most poll workers are over the age of 60, And in the era of uncertainty caused by the coronavirus, fewer are signing up for the job. So with many older volunteers declining to participate this year to protect their health, we're emphasizing the need for younger voters who face a lower risk. So our Work Elections Fellowship has partnered with Power the Polls to be a part of the solution by hiring college students as paid Work Elections Fellows, who then remotely recruit their peers to serve as poll workers in their campus community. So our goal is an ambitious and preliminary goal of 200 to 250 poll workers recruited per fellow, so per campus, to keep all polling sites safe, readily open, and available for delay-free in-person voting. Maintaining safe in-person voting is critical for communities without reliable access to vote-by-mail assistance, voters with disabilities, those who need language assistance, or just for voters who need to vote in person, as I always have. So we cannot have mass closures of poll sites on November 3rd due to lack of poll workers, which then results in long lines, few opportunities to physically distance, and then directly stifling voters' ability to cast a ballot. So Power the Polls and the Campus Vote Project with this new program have created a specific link for Midwest poll worker volunteers. So powerthepolls.org/CVPM is included here on the slide. So that's our Midwest specific sign up link. So our fellows will be using this URL for their recruitment. When interested volunteers on campuses click the link, they're instructed to fill out the interest form at Power the Poll website, which then directs them to their local election clerk's poll worker registration page. So every applicant's sign-up data is then also gathered into a central dashboard for us at CVP and location coded to each specific campus. So every fellow will then be responsible for following up with every poll worker volunteer from their school to make sure that, one, they actually signed up, two, that they actually receive training by the clerk, and then three, they just receive additional supervision as election day approaches, including follow-up ensuring PPE at every polling location, transportation, poll worker payment, etc. So I've been in touch, I think, with most campus contacts in this call, actually, about getting Work Election Fellowships, the application opportunity out to students at their communities and their campuses. I think there are a couple of folks who I still have to get in touch with, but we'll do follow up after this call. But our Work Election Fellows, like I said, are focused on trying to recruit their peers to serve this important purpose. So that's kind of the brief overview of our program, but I can definitely take questions for sure. Oh, Kristen, I think you might be muted.
Muted myself. Does anyone have any questions about poll working or recruiting poll workers on campuses for Hadia?
We currently have 12 campuses on our target list, and in key regions across the state.
And I should remind folks too that the 7 largest cities in Wisconsin, all of whom have important campuses on them, have gotten major grants to have really have additional safety measures. So the grant money is being used to pay hazard pay to poll workers. So you get paid more than in normal years. Masks, sanitizing of the stations, more space for social distancing. There are going to be plexiglass barriers like there were in April. So working at the polls will be as safe as it can be. But certainly if you have time, if you're available to help out that day, please do. And I do mean that for staff, faculty, anybody who can take their time to volunteer at the polls. There also is a great need for poll workers to help with early voting, especially in the city of Milwaukee, where there are very, very large, there's a large number of early vote places. And some clerks can use help, either paid work or volunteering to help stuff ballots, stuff like that. So check with your local municipal clerk wherever you live to see if they need help. The law in Wisconsin is that you must work at a poll in the county you live in, not the municipality you live in. So you can work at any municipality within the county that you live in. So hopefully we'll be able to get a lot of folks to work the polls this year. All right, let's talk to a few students. We've got Noah Foster at Carroll University, Molly Schamberger at Marquette, Aaron Larson at UW Stevens Point, and I saw Julia Warheit at UW Madison just popped in too. So students, if you can unmute yourselves and tell us a little bit about your perspective as a student in this kind of odd time that we're living in on campuses, and also how things are going as it relates to voting. So which one of you wants to start? Somebody unmute yourself here. Let's talk to Noah, Molly, Aaron, or Julia.
I can start us off.
Thank you so much, Noah.
So can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right. So my name is Noah Foster, and yeah, I'm a democracy fellow for Carroll University. And I was just asked to give, a brief perspective from a student's point of view with everything going on. And for obvious reasons, COVID takes up a lot of our, thought process and energy. Every single day, stuff is changing, and we really just don't know what, tomorrow will look like, more or less, 6 or 7 weeks down the line. And even though I think there is a lot of, promotion of voting right now, a lot more than like I saw in 2018, it's being drowned out a lot by, COVID and, thoughts about maybe schools shutting down. And for that reason, I really think that it would be a lot more helpful if we really got faculty and staff a lot more involved in promoting voting. I think I have a lot of faith in our student orgs and democracy fellows to be promoting voting, right now. But in 2018, I remember we had a lot of faculty and staff that were promoting voting in like the week leading up to election, but not too much before that. And that's just not, really as good of an option right now. Like I said, we don't know what November is going to look like. And, especially if campuses get shut down, that's going to be a lot harder for students, especially those that live in a different state, but vote here, to vote, especially, if they haven't registered yet. If they're planning on registering same day as voting, that won't be an option anymore. So yeah, I really think we need to be pushing, early registration and absentee voting more than ever right now. And in order to, drown out the, messages we're hearing all the time about COVID, I really think it needs to be a combined effort between the students and the student orgs and also the faculty and staff, because, as students, we can promote it as much as we, can possibly do, but there's a certain amount of attention and respect that students give to the faculty and staff that I think can be really helpful and really beneficial. And yeah, so that's kind of my perspective on everything right now.
Thank you so much, Noah. Molly, do you want to give us your perspective at Marquette?
Yeah, absolutely. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So I agree with what Noah was saying. I think that COVID has kind of taken up a lot of our attention right now at Marquette. I've been seeing a lot of promotion for voting stuff, but mainly within the circles that I'm in on campus. So people who are already very politically aware, like I know the poli-sci department has been doing a great job of promoting it, but I would venture to guess that most political science majors are already registered to vote and aware of kind of the important voting dates. So I think that with most of the classes being online, that professors have an even better platform to kind of promote like voting dates, get out links to myvote.wi.gov, stuff like that. And I think that pushing for early voting will help reduce a lot of stress for the students on campus, because I know that most students are like in classes on voting day or will be doing other stuff or are worried about COVID. And I think that a lot of students aren't even aware that early voting is an option or mail-in ballots are an option. So I think that if professors were to promote those options on online courses, that would be a huge help.
Thank you so much. Aaron Larson, what's going on at Stevens Point?
Yeah, so my name is Aaron Larson. I use he, him pronouns. Now I'm in my final year at the University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point. And kind of in the day and age that we're living in, it's very overwhelming and confusing, I think, for students, especially new students who probably haven't registered or even know how to register to vote. And COVID is certainly not helping campuses promote. There's a lot of promotion, specifically on my campus, about awareness about the pandemic, but also I think social justice issues have been taking up a lot of what we've been talking about this summer especially. And so I think in order to kind of help that, we need to kind of centralize our efforts. On our campus, there's not really a central point that people can go to. And with a lot of different resources out there, it can almost exacerbate how overwhelming it is when you have a whole bunch of different organizations all reaching out asking if you voted. So to centralize those efforts and give a single point of reference that students can go to would really help.
Julia, are you able to chime in?
I am. Sorry, I don't think my camera's working, but can everyone hear me?
I think we can, yeah. Julia is at the University of Wisconsin in Madison.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julia. I'm a Democracy Fellow at UW-Madison. As Christina was touching on, I think we've really had great participation through our coalition, and students are really excited to get out the vote. But as I'm sure a lot of you have heard about, UW-Madison's campus is not faring well with COVID-19 right now, and we currently have 2 dorms that are completely on lockdown. So I think in terms of working as a campus, students, administrators together, we really need help streamlining communication, not only to those freshmen who I'm sure are extremely overwhelmed, entering a new place, a new university with all that is going on, and also reaching STEM majors and people that wouldn't necessarily be the first ones reaching out to get involved with voting. Also engaging our international students, because we have so many, is something we would love help with from administrators. And yeah, I think we're all very excited to get out the vote.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you. Thank you to all of my Democracy Fellows, and I hope there'll be a lot more of you soon. We need all hands on deck, right? So we will do everything we can. Speaking of hands on deck, the Milwaukee Bucks have really been doing a lot. They actually started a new program called Bucks Vote. Alex Lasry, the Senior Vice President of the Milwaukee Bucks organization, is with us and will be speaking in just a minute. Alex, there's your warning. And I am going to play a short video for you that the Bucks put together to engage, educate, and inspire.
Bucks fans, we know systemic change happens when we demand it. And I believe that our actions, as not only the Milwaukee Bucks organization, but as the NBA, we have displayed the power that we have for change. Voting gives us that ability to dismantle inequities and fight racism. We can't let others determine our future. Make sure you are registered to vote. It is imperative, more so now than ever.
Yay. So great to have them on board. And I would like to now introduce Alex Lasry. Alex, unmute yourself and join us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, nice t-shirt.
Thank you. So, I just want to say thank you. And, the Bucks organization has been doing, I think even before all of, even before the Trump presidency and all that happened, what happened in the bubble, voting has always been a central tenet of, Bucks community work. We had been doing voter registration drives. My first year here, when we were in the Bradley Center, we used playoff games to try to engage young people and engage, everyone to register to vote and to get out to vote. I worked before I joined the Bucks, I worked in the Obama administration, and I know how important, especially young people are to ensuring that we win elections. And, I remember when I was in college, thinking that a lot of times at 18, 19, 20 years old, that one, my vote didn't matter, and two, I'll vote when I get older. None of these issues affect me right now. And I think what we all see now is, issues like student debt, healthcare, the economy affects you not only now, but policies that get put in place today are going to affect you 10, 15, 20 years down the line. And a lot of times those policies don't end up getting even changed. And so making sure that we have the right people in office to handle anything that, that comes at you is important. The being president isn't just about passing legislation. There are numerous and endless amounts of crises that will come up that I saw in the White House, that if we didn't have Barack Obama as president, it would have been handled probably in a much different and probably much worse way. And I think we're seeing that today. And so it's passing legislation and agenda is important, but also making sure we have the right person in office to handle something random is important as well. And I think what happened with George Floyd, Jacob Blake, is a perfect example of something that having the right person in office would I think at least change the situation. And that's why the Bucks took a stand, and why at the end of the day, after Jacob Blake was shot, they said enough is enough. Like what is happening today is just so unacceptable, and there's been no change and no action, that we're not going to play today. And we're going to use our time instead of playing to talk with state leaders and find out why isn't anything happening. What is taking so long for sensible gun reform? What is taking so long to enact police reform and police accountability? And what is taking so long to pass the George Floyd Act in DC? And so, they talked with state leaders, continued to educate themselves, and then worked with the NBA and the Bucks to create new programs to encourage people to vote. And you saw Wes Matthews, just that right there, who's from Wisconsin, played at Marquette, talking about the importance of voting. He wore "Vote" on the back of his jersey the entire time we were there. And this was something that, they decided voting is going to be the most important thing, because while it's not the only thing, ensuring that we have people in office who are going to take this seriously is how we change policy and how we can help make things better. And they called on the Wisconsin legislature to come back into session and take up, we didn't need any more task forces. We don't need any more studies. We know the policy proposals and the solutions. And they asked for action. And what we're seeing still is inaction and delay. And so, our position is, okay, well then we need to get people out to vote, to put people in office who are going to act and who are going to take this seriously and produce results. And that's why we came up with Bucks Vote. So we're going to be engaging, educating, and hopefully inspiring people to get out to vote. We use Fiserv Forum now as an early vote site. And we hope to use Fiserv Forum going forward as either an early vote or a same-day vote site in the future. But for early vote, Fiserv Forum is going to be a great way to hopefully engage people and make it a safe and reliable place to vote. We're working on maybe having a few surprises at the polling station to encourage more people to get there. But this is what it's all about. We're hoping to maybe even have Menominee Falls Arena or G League Arena as an early vote site as well. So we're working on that. But this election, the 2016 election, is completely different if more of us came out to vote. And that's something that we can say, well, we need candidates to inspire us and all of that. But at the end of the day, elections are a choice, and deciding not to vote is a choice. But deciding also to vote is a choice. And that says, like, okay, Trump is unacceptable. What we have in office right now is unacceptable, and what we need is new leadership. And so that 2016 election gets swung completely different if we come out. And I think we saw that in 2018. More young people were engaged, came out to vote, and changed the outcome of the election, and how these last 2 years have been. So I just can't stress how important it is that not just we get out to vote, but that we get other people out to vote, that we continue to talk to our friends, our family, people to register. I think, Obama said it best. It can be difficult to register, to register to vote. And, some people make it difficult to vote, but it's not impossible. And if we're dedicated and say, like, this is the most important thing I'm doing, we will be able to win this election. People will come to the polls, and hopefully we can have the highest turnout that we've had. So, I just want to say thank you guys for all you're doing to ensure that this election goes as we hope. If there's anything we can be doing differently, please reach out, let us know. If you want to partner with us on getting people out and how we can help register and engage, we're looking for organizations. We've partnered with When We All Vote and More Than a Vote, but would love to engage and partner with even more local organizations to ensure that Wisconsin goes the way that we all want. So thank you. Just know that when it comes to registering and voting, the Bucks are behind you and are here for whatever you guys need. So thank you guys for all you're doing, and hopefully we can celebrate a good election in November, and then whenever the season gets back up again, hopefully the Bucks can do their part and start winning as well.
Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you for taking your time to be with us this morning. Bye. I just want to remind everyone that the organization that I represent, Campus Vote, and All in Campus, actually all of the organizations we talked about today, are nonpartisan. So while some people do have, different opinions on the election and everything, the truth is that what I have on the screen right now is true. Democracy works better when we all vote. So when you talk about we want a successful election, as far as we're concerned, the successful election is that we simply get more people out to vote. Some of you might hear statistics about how the people in the United States don't vote at rates as high as some other democracies, which is really a shame. So many people have moved to this country for the freedom of being able to vote in our representative democracy. So don't take that freedom for granted. When our democracy fellows are out on campus, when our people are out on campus, with all of the resources that we give you, we are never talking about candidates. We are talking about how to vote, when to vote, how to register to vote, what the deadlines are, and really just about getting everyone out there. So thank you so much for that agreement. And here again are the links to the deep dives. Jot these down. I will email them to all of you when this is over. The FAQs and freakouts that are happening, that's happening tomorrow. This is all about what to do when weird things happen. People don't realize if you get a mail-in ballot, you still get 3 chances. So when you go to vote in person, if you mess up your ballot, you get 2 more ballots. The same thing is true if you mail in your ballot. So if you mail your ballot, or you get your ballot and you're filling out and you did it wrong, or you mess up something on the outside, whatever, you can get 2 more chances, just like everything else. What to do if at the last minute you realize your ID is expired. Turns out that's okay. All these different weird things that can happen. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. On Wednesday, we're going to talk about all the different ways you can use digital platforms, social media, to reach out to each other. A lot of times this is called relational organizing. Even if all you do is send some emails to all the contacts or text messages to all the contacts in your own phone and say, I just want to make sure everybody's got this voter registration page. All of those things are helpful that you can do just with your own contacts. If everybody who registered to vote reached out to 5 more people and helped them register to vote, that would make a huge difference. And then of course on Thursday, we're going to talk about making sure that you are not in silos when you are reaching out to students on campus, but that you are including every single different demographic. And I'm not just talking about race or gender, but also age, especially on the technical college campuses. There is a huge broad coalition of people who go to school at community colleges and technical colleges. So we will definitely want to make sure that we're reaching everyone. And finally, there's the end. So we have 4 minutes left. Do I have any last minute questions? Simply unmute yourself and ask, or put it in the chat. I hope that some of you will join us at these deep dives during the week. That's where you can ask any really technical questions that you have or talk about some issues that you're worried about. My email address is here. My phone number is here. I don't care if you text me, call me, email me, whatever you do, we will make sure that we are helping everybody. And thank you so much for everyone, to everyone who was here today. Before you leave, do me a favor. We do have a couple minutes. Before you leave, tell me what campus you are from in the chat, and also tell me one thing that you are committing to do to help students vote this year. Pop something in there and tell me something you learned, something you've committed to doing, even if it's one little thing that you personally are going to do this to help get out the vote. Pop that into the chat and we will get some great ideas about that. And yes, I will share all of these ideas on upcoming emails, as I have all of your email addresses by virtue of the fact that you signed up for this conference. So you will be getting email resources from me. I, of course, would love it if a bunch of more of you would join Campus Vote Project, and we can work with you to make that happen. It's very quick and easy. It is absolutely free. I would love to have more democracy fellows on campuses across the state. Even some of the campuses that are in rural areas where there might not be so much activity going on. Let's get some democracy fellows at Platteville. Let's get some democracy fellows at Baraboo and River Falls, and the areas around Wausau. We do have Stevens Point. I don't have anyone at Eau Claire yet. I would love to have a fellow at Eau Claire and someone at Green Bay. So let's talk. There's my contact information. Give us all your stuff. Oh, here's someone. Michelle Miller has already updated her email signature line to include the MyVote website. I love that. Kelsey at La Crosse is going to register students no matter where. That's what I want to hear. Madison, also put the MyVote website on the signature. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Everything you can do to make it a little bit easier for people to register and vote, it's going to be worth it. And again, everything that you get from the Campus Vote Project, everything that you get from Campus Compact and the All in Democracy Challenge, from the Andrew Goodman Foundation, from the Campus Elections Engagement Group, all of the interns that work on campuses for the school itself are nonpartisan. There might be, of course, some partisan groups on campus. We are not them. So as much as everyone has passionate feelings about things this year, that's just another excuse to make sure we're getting out the vote from every single person. If you hear someone talking about what they care about, issues they care about, ask them if they are planning to vote. And if they are, help them make that a reality. We've got St. Norbert also changed their signature line. I'm loving seeing this, you guys. Registering students at the library, really good idea. Even students working in their dorm rooms in relative isolation are often need to go to the library for some things. Offering rides, that's great. Swag always helps. Kids love free swag. Well, we all love free swag. The state student guides, Samaya is reminding us, can go into your signature lines as well. Amber is, we're launching a new Marquette vote campaign. That is fantastic. We love that. Voter registration. Yes, thank you so much. Yes, and the Milwaukee Elections Commission has lots of good information on their city site too. Alex is setting up a central link at Carroll to help students register. This is fantastic, you guys. Yes, and instructors can put vote information on slides in their campus, in their classes. Since we are all off doing things online right now, it's super easy to put a slide into whatever you're using to teach, or a link on your teaching platform to help students vote. All right, thank you so much. Just follow us on social media, shoot me an email, shoot me a text, give me a call. Let's get the vote out on campuses, or let's make sure that we have not left any student behind. That if there's any student on campus who wants to vote, we will help them vote, make it possible for them to vote. So thank you so much. I am going to sign off. I'll hope to see a bunch of you on the deep dives. If you have more questions about any of those issues, creating diverse coalitions across campus, making the best use of your digital resources, and making sure you have every little question you can think of answered about voting and voter registration. We'll see you later in the week, and you'll hear more from me as things go on. Thank you all so much, and have a great week.